Hello, I'm John Weiler with the Sovereign Passage Assembly, and this is our daily brief for January 16th, 2019. Okay, we are in the process now of studying the great signs and wonders that YAHUAH is bringing on the Mitsrayim, on Pharaoh, and showing the people who he is. So we are in Parsha Ve'era, which means "and I appeared." And we are moving into chapter 8 in Shemoth, or Exodus. We left Moshe and Aharon with Pharaoh at the end of yesterday's portion, or the reading of the portion. And the rod, we discussed the rod of ELOHIYM being tossed down by the Kohanim, and it becoming the serpent, and then to be picked up again at the point of the return of the Mashiach. Excuse me. The rod representing the authority that was given through Moshe to Aharon, to the Kohanim, but they throw it down, and they forsake it, and for the way of the serpent. And then Mashiach, when he returns, he'll rule with a rod of iron, one that will not be changed, will not be thrown down. We also discussed magicians of Mitsrayim being able to do the same things, or seemingly the same things, that Aharon did with the rod of ELOHIYM, but the Aharon's rod, swallowed up their rods, but it still did the same thing. So what we see, though, is, or how we related it anyways yesterday, was for what we see today in the ability of man and the things that we think we can do today as far as healing and in cases creating life, changing life. We see, like with our food, animals, plants, things like that, seemingly to have the same capability as ELOHIYM, but not to the full extent. In fact, what we see with magicians is that they're only able to do the things that bring death, and that's what we do today. With our wise people, our scientists that we call now our magicians, they really are just propagating death under the guise of life. Okay, that's really the key thing there for us to pay attention to, is the words of men, which are the words of the serpent, which are opposition to the words or the way of YAHUAH, which brings life. Words of man, words of serpent, brings death. And we have those signs iterated and reiterated to us in the signs given to Pharaoh through Moshe, through Aharon. The same thing with the turning of the water, the river, and all the waters to blood. So today we're going to get into chapter 8. What we're told at the beginning of chapter 7 is that YAHUAH is going to harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply his signs and wonders in the land of Mitsrayim. But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, Moshe, that I may lay my hand upon Mitsrayim and bring forth my army, our masses of people, and my people, the children of Yasharel, out of the land of Mitsrayim by great judgments. And that Mitsrayim shall know that I am YAHUAH when I stretch forth my hand upon Mitsrayim and bring out the children of Yasharel from among them. Now we're going to start seeing these things. So Moshe, YAHUAH through Moshe and Aharon have come in and told Pharaoh that Pharaoh is not the authority, and he will do what ELOHIYM is commanding. But ELOHIYM, YAHUAH, tells us that he was going to harden his heart, so now he can show the world that he is ELOHIYM. So let's read chapter 8, and then we'll talk about it. And YAHUAH spoke unto Moshe, go unto Pharaoh, and say unto him, thus says YAHUAH, let my people go, that they may serve me. And if you refuse to let them go, Behold, I will smite all your borders with frogs. And the river shall bring forth frogs abundantly, which shall go up and come into your house, and into your bedchamber, and upon your bed, and into the house of your servants, and upon your people, and into your ovens, and into your kneading troughs. And the frogs shall come up both on you, and upon your people, and upon all your servants. And YAHUAH spoke unto Moshe, say unto Aharon, stretch forth your hand with your rod over the streams, over the rivers, and over the ponds, and cause the frogs to come up upon the land of Mitsrayim. And Aharon stretched out his hand over the waters of Mitsrayim, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Mitsrayim. And the magicians did so with their enchantments, and brought up the frogs upon the land of Mitsrayim. And Pharaoh called for Moshe and Aharon and said, entreat YAHUAH that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people. And I will let the people go, that they may do sacrifice unto YAHUAH. And Moshe said unto Pharaoh, glory over me, when shall I entreat for you and for your servants and for your people to destroy the frogs from you and your houses, that they may remain in the river only? And he said, Pharaoh said, tomorrow. And he said, Moshe, be it according to your word, that you may know that there is none like unto YAHUAH Elohehu. And the frogs shall depart from you, and from your houses, and from your servants, and from your people. They shall remain in the river only. And Moshe and Aharon went out from Pharaoh, and Moshe cried unto YAHUAH because of the frogs which he had brought against Pharaoh. And YAHUAH did according to the words of Moshe, and the frogs died out of the houses, and out of the villages, and out of the fields. And they gathered them together upon heaps, and the land stank. But when Pharaoh saw that there was respite, he hardened his heart, and hearkened not unto them, as YAHUAH had said. And YAHUAH said unto Moshe, say unto Aaron, stretch out your rod, and smite the dust of the land, that it may become lice throughout all the land of Mitsrayim. And they did so, for Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod, and smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice in man and in beast. All the dust of the land became lice throughout the land of Mitsrayim. And the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth the lice, but they could not. So there were lice upon man and upon beast. Then the magicians said unto Pharaoh, this is the finger of ELOHIYM. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them, as YAHUAH had said. And YAHUAH said unto Moshe, rise up early in the morning, and stand before Pharaoh. Lo, he comes forth to the water, and say unto him, Thus says YAHUAH, let my people go, that they may serve me. Else if you will not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies upon you, and upon your servants, and upon your people, and into your houses. And the houses of Mitsrayim shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground whereon they are. And I will sever in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, to the end you may know that I am YAHUAH in the midst of the earth. And I will put a division between my people and your people. Tomorrow shall this sign be. And YAHUAH did so, and there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Mitsrayim. The land was corrupted by reason of the swarm of flies. And Pharaoh called for Moshe and Aharon, and said, Go ye, sacrifice to your Elohim in the land. And Moshe said, It is not meet so to do. For we shall sacrifice the abomination of the Mitsrayim to YAHUAH Elohehu. Lo, we shall sacrifice the abomination of the Mitsrayim before their eyes, and will they not stone us? We will go 3 days' journey into the wilderness, and sacrifice to YAHUAH Elohehu, as he shall command us. And Pharaoh said, I will let you go, that ye may sacrifice to YAHUAH Eloheka in the wilderness, only you shall not go very far away, entreat for me. And Moshe said, Behold, I go out from you, and I will entreat YAHUAH, that the swarms of flies may depart from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people, tomorrow. But let not Pharaoh deal deceitfully any more, in not letting the people go to sacrifice to YAHUAH. And Moshe went out from Pharaoh, and entreated YAHUAH. And YAHUAH did according to the word of Moshe, and he removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people. There remained not one. And Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time also, and neither would he let the people go. So, there's a lot of fantastical things going on here, that if we can picture them, because it's really easy to read through these. We talked about yesterday on how today, especially in our popular culture, we have a fictionalized lens that we read the word of Yahweh through, because these things, we see them in all of our movies, books, cartoons, and stuff like that as fiction. But we believe the word to be truth, then we know that this really occurred. Okay, and then the things that were occurring physically, excuse me, point to things that affect spiritually. Okay, so the physical that's occurring here are speaking directly about the spiritual, or the direction of the ruach, or spirit, breath, wind. So we have 3 plagues that are put upon the people, or 3 judgments that are put upon the people, for the sole reason, okay, hear out, for the sole reason that the Mitsrayim shall know that he is YAHUAH, okay, the one that was, is, and will be, the eternal. And he's going to bring out the upright of El, all right, so the Yasharel from among them. So now we're looking at authority, challenge the Pharaoh's authority, all right, to tell Pharaoh they had no authority, all right. He had authority here that has been executed over the people by the will of YAHUAH, okay, by the will of ELOHIYM. But now that has been inflicted upon Yasharel, but for the sole purpose to show the world that YAHUAH is ELOHIYM, and to give the name, to present the name of YAHUAH to his chosen people, Yasharel, the upright of El. So now, with a stretched out arm and a mighty hand, he's going to start taking his people, separating his people from the world. And we get this here with the swarms of flies, that there's now going to be a division. You put a division between my people and your people, tomorrow shall this sight be. So the things that occurred during these plagues happen only to those not chosen of El, or those who are not the upright of El, Yasharel. And the children of Yasharel are not affected by the plagues. So, the first here, we see frogs. Okay, frogs coming out, and Yahweh says, I'll smite all your borders with frogs, in verse 2. The river shall bring forth frogs abundantly, and then they're going to go everywhere. There will be frogs everywhere, like a nightmare of frogs. And they'll come upon you, Pharaoh, and upon your people, and all your servants. So everybody will be affected by this. And then he spoke to Moshe, and Moshe to tell him to go to El Aharon, to stretch forth your hand with your rod over the streams, over the rivers, over the ponds, and cause the frogs to come out of the land, upon the land of Mitsrayim. So he's telling Moshe, who is the Elohim to Pharaoh, and Aharon is the prophet to Moshe, to go tell Aaron to stretch out your hand, because now the authority is in the hand of Aharon, and stretch your hand with the rod over the waters, and then these frogs will come out. Well, frogs. Now we have we're turning now to a statement. Okay, the statement yesterday that we read is that Pharaoh is not in charge here. Okay. He is not the God, all right, the God King. There is one, Elohim, YAHUAH, and he's telling you what to do. So YAHUAH is coming into his house saying, you're not in charge here, you're going to let my people go. So now what's being stated by this is to the people that there's only one, YAHUAH. So all these other gods, these pantheon of gods that were being worshipped, they're not real. They have no authority. All right, even if there's some semblance of reality to them, as in a demon, for example, because many of these things that are being worshipped here are demons. They're spirits. but they are the unclean spirit. We don't know this for sure because it doesn't state this here. But the worship of demons is what's talked about in the writings of the apostles. We get some from the prophets too. So whether or not, though, they are of a spiritual nature, YAHUAH is the creator of all. So that's what's being stated here. Even if they are getting some kind of response from a demon in the guise of one of these gods, it doesn't mean anything, because YAHUAH is the creator of all, and he is the authority. So that's what's being stated here with these plagues. So like the first year is frogs, and coming out of the water, there's an Egyptian goddess, and her name is Heket, and she's a goddess of fertility and renewal and water. And it's a female deity that has a frog head. Okay, so that was the fertility and renewal in water. So now there's no control over that. As far as the magicians can bring forth the frogs upon the land of Mitsrayim, which then further to help harden the heart of Pharaoh, but there's no taking away of the frogs. We can bring these things forth through their enchantments. So we're seeing another thing that for renewal possibly, and fertility possibly, all right, as far as what man can do. But there's no going back. So like here, it doesn't say that magicians can get the frogs out. That would really fix the problem. So if I got magicians here that I'm relying on in the spiritual battle that I'm having against this guy Moshe, that if his Elohim, YAHUAH, whom I'm just now learning about in the position of Pharaoh, and he's bringing forth frogs under the guise of Heket, and then I say, okay, magicians, can you do this? And they do it, great. And they say, all right, make them all go away. I can't do that. Okay, so there's a problem. Because they can't make it go away. Because then Pharaoh goes to Moshe, and he says, entreat YAHUAH that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go that they may sacrifice to YAHUAH. And Moshe says, glory over me. When shall I entreat for you and for your servants and for your people to destroy the frogs from you and your houses, that they may remain in the river only? So he said, I don't want to be the one to tell you when. Why don't you tell me when? That way it's actually done by your word here. And you can see that there's none like YAHUAH Elohehu. And the Pharaoh says, okay, tomorrow. And Moshe says, okay, be it according to your word. And then he goes and Moshe and Aharon go out from Pharaoh and cries to YAHUAH because of frogs which he brought against. And YAHUAH did according to the word of Moshe. Okay, he did according to the word of Moshe, because Moshe is the one that's entreating. And the frogs died out of the houses, villages, and the fields, and they're gathered together in big piles, and everything stunk. And then Pharaoh sees that, okay, it's gone away. All right, that problem is a crisis averted. He didn't do what he said he was going to do. Harden his heart. So, I mean, even today when we talk about this just a little bit further, just things for us to pay attention to here, because we have these Egyptian gods and goddesses, which then we can look at the Greeks and then the Romans, and then so on and so forth as, the Norse gods. There are always these pantheons of gods, and they always have something to do with life on this earth. Okay, so there's always a fertility goddess. It's worshipped today on Easter. That's Ishtar, is the fertility goddess that the unbeliever then ties resurrection of Mashiach to, but has to do with fertility. So here we got the Egyptian goddess of fertility, water, and renewal, which YAHUAH's saying that's not the case. Okay, there is no such thing. But we have the magicians here that are able to do that. And today, you think about fertility and fertility treatments and things like that, where a lot of problems arise from that with people trying to get pregnant that can't. And but human beings, man has that ability to do so, to an extent. But they don't really have much true control over, for example, if we're going to have fertility treatments, now all of a sudden we're going to have triplets, okay, or quintuplets, something like that. So we have a limited understanding. We have an understanding, but a limited understanding of the creation, just like the magicians did here in this time. So, but it's not Elohim. The authority is always Elohim. That's where life comes from, okay? Life and life abundantly is what's given to us through the Mashiach. But yet we still hearken to the ways of man. All right, and this case, so Pharaoh's still hearkening to the ways of man, and which is the way of the serpent. So his heart is hardened. So Yahweh says to Moshe, "Go tell Aaron to stretch out your rod and smite the dust of the land, so that it may become lice throughout all the land of Mitsrayim." I was thinking about that this morning, getting ready to come in to the office, about just being covered with lice everywhere. Just lice, okay, because there's another one with flies. But lice, and how terrible that would be, because these are biting insects. They bite you, and they itch. Terrible. So there's an Egyptian god of the earth. His name is Geb or Gabe, and he's in charge of all the dust on the earth. So what YAHUAH is showing here through El Moshe, through El Aharon, that there's no such thing, no authority here over the earth. It strikes it, and the dust of the land becomes lice throughout. And Aharon stretched out his hand with his rod, so he's acting in place of Elohim with authority, and smote the dust of the earth, became lice in man, and the lice in beast, and all the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Mitsrayim. And the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth the lice, but they could not. Okay, so now we've reached the extent of the ability of the magicians. So that's as far as they could go. So there were lice upon man and upon beast. Then the magician said unto Pharaoh, "This is the finger of Elohim." And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them, as YAHUAH had said. So we see now today, just to kind of digress possibly a little bit with the ability of man, we have this thing called artificial intelligence that man is creating, and how there is a great fear that the robots will take over and things like that. So this creation of artificial life. So we are unable to do that. Ruach, that's life. Okay, so we are looking at the limitations of man right now in the place of Elohim today, and it's something to look at, in the sense of we have a lot of people talking about that particular example, that artificial intelligence, but there's no way that mankind can create something that is alive in the sense of life that we have, because we have a wonderful machine that our Ruach inhabits, our bodies. We're afraid that computers are going to outpace humans. This is impossible. I mean, if we think about how many things that our brain, our central processing unit of our bodies, how many tasks it's doing in each nanosecond with keeping us alive, and then taking in information and then putting out information, interpreting information and putting out information, it would blow our minds. If we truly sat down and just looked at what we do, and to say that human beings can create something that's even remotely close to what YAHUAH has given to us for this life here, it's impossible. And we can't create, we can't breathe the life into the creation. So we're starting to see the limitations of mankind here, and that's something, as we see about a time frame in life, for where we are in the relation to the plagues that are talked about in Revelation, which we'll get into here towards the end of this Parsha. Next Parsha. Okay, the last plague is flies, and so the lice were taken away. But Pharaoh's heart was hardened again and hearkened not unto him. So he said, yeah, I'm going to do this, but doesn't do it. I'm going to do this, but doesn't do it. So then Yahweh says to Moshe, rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh when he comes to the water and say, thus says Yahweh, let my people go that they may serve me. Else, if you will not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies upon you, and upon your servants, and upon your people, and into your houses, and the houses of the Mitsrayim shall be full of the swarms of flies, and also the ground wherein they are. Now, think about this in a practical application. To be constantly bombarded with flies. Like we see those pictures of the beekeepers, where the bees are just clinging to them. But that would be flies trying to get in our ears, our nose, our eyes, everything. It'd just be terrible. So, and then Yahweh says through Moshe that he's going to make the division now between the Mitsrayim and Yasharel, his people. And his people, Yasharel, will not be affected. And so that happened. And there became a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh and into his servants' houses and into all the land of Mitsrayim. The land was corrupted by reason of the swarm of flies. So a nightmare of flies. And that represents the God of creation, the God of the movement of the sun and rebirth. It's the name of Khepri. And the Egyptian god Khepri had a head of a fly, but it was the God of creation, movement of the sun, and rebirth. So Yahweh is now in those 3 plagues stating directly that there is no other gods or ELOHIYM but him. So Haket, Geb, and Khepri were just shown as to not be the authority of the things that they were to represent. And Pharaoh calls for Moshe and Aaron and says, go ye and sacrifice to your ELOHIYM. And Moshe said, it's not good for us to do that, because what we do is an abomination to the Mitsrayim, to the point that they want to stone us, to kill us. He says, let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness and do all of our stuff there, as he commanded us. Okay, this is what he says to do. But Pharaoh says, I'll let you go, that you may sacrifice to YAHUAH Eloheka in the wilderness, only you shall not go very far away. So you're not going to go the 3 days. I'll let you go, but you're not going to be able to do all that you want to do. You're just going to do what I'll let you go, but not all the way. And then he says, entreat for me, so please go to Yahweh for me. And Moshe says, I will go out from you, and I will entreat Yahuwah that the swarms of flies may depart from Pharaoh, from his servants and his people, tomorrow. But let not Pharaoh deal deceitfully anymore, and not letting the people go to sacrifice to Yahuwah. And then he leaves and goes to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah did according to the word of Moshe. And he removed the swarm of flies from Pharaoh, from the servants, from his people, and there remained not one. And Pharaoh hardened the heart at this time also, neither would he let the people go. Okay, so Pharaoh still doesn't do it. He says, yeah, I'll do it, and I'm not going to do it. So, authority. Okay, so that is our theme here in Yahweh taking his people, Yasharel, out of Mitsrayim. So we have that for us today. We've been called from the foundation of the world through Yahushua HaMashiach. He is our authority. And when he returns, he will rule, and he will rule with a rod of iron. Okay, so he's going to pick up the rod that was thrown down, with the authority given to the Kohanim, thrown down, and he will pick that up, and rule again. And that's what we're looking for right now. So the authority, though, is Yahweh. And we have this time that we're living in with the serpent. And this time that we're given is a gift, okay, the gift of repentance. There are, in the letters to the apostles, or from the apostles, stating that, well, people say, well, where's ELOHIYM? How come he hasn't shown himself or has not come back? not understanding that everything that we're given here, time especially, is a gift to repent. So we have to be very aware of that, because we are still coming to the knowledge of the truth, to the way, to the understanding of how we are to live our lives, according to His Word, which is what sanctifies us. That's what we believe to be the truth, the way of this life. And that's what sanctifies us, making us a purified vessel for the Ruach HaKodesh, so that we can be the rivers, founts of living water that comes out of our mouths. And that we're healing for the nations, because the words that we're speaking are the words of Elohim. So we have these times now that is given to us to repent. Now we read in the plagues, and we'll start to do the seals and then the plagues that are given in Kizayon and Revelation. And to look at the times that we live in, it's very challenging to read that, to read what is occurring and look around today. Because the reality is, we have been in the last days since Mashiach ascended into heaven. Okay, so he ascended into Shamayim, or the expanse, the heaven, the sky, or the expanse above the earth. So the tribulation occurred then, and we can began then. But we have these seals that are opened up periodically, and we don't really have a time frame when that happens given to us directly in the Revelation. And for us to look back from the history of the world, so how the shaping of nations occurred from that moment of the ascension of the Mashiach, there's a lot of things that could be said there. And then the deaths of the Kodashim and the oppression of the way of YAHUAH. There's a lot that individuals can determine on their own. But the fact is, our time is always at hand, is what Mashiach tells us. And for us to look at end times prophecy as something that's reliable, got to be very careful there, because our end times are always at hand. The reality is, for us, when we die, it's not going to matter. Not going to matter at all. When this body is done here, all that we'll either be waiting for two things. One is resurrection with Mashiach, or judgment at the very end. So what we need to be focusing on, or what we should be focusing on as Talmidim of Mashiach, disciples of Mashiach, to where we walk as he walked, which is in the way of YAHUAH, is drawing nearer, is focusing on righteousness. Okay, so seeking him through the word of Yah, constantly, all the time, and then pulling ourselves out of the world, as what's happening here with Yasharel. We're given that opportunity. The problem that we will see with Yasharel, the children that are coming out of Mitsrayim, is that they're not there with their heart. Okay, their heart are their spiritual desire. It wasn't there from the beginning, from when they were pulled out. We have it now, or we have the opportunity now, because we have the complete word of YAHUAH, and we also have the outpouring of the Ruach today, to where when we draw near and seek righteousness, he will be here for us. Moshe tells us that in Deuteronomy, or Devarim. So he will, and he is, so that we can draw near with a true heart now, with that spiritual desire to want to be with him. So to look around and see these plagues that are occurring to the Egyptians, there will be things that happen and have happened and are happening now. But the whole point then was repentance, was to take people away and to show the authority, and then give the opportunity to come with Yasharel, which occurs. There's a mixed multitude that come out of the land of Mitsrayim. It's the same thing today. All of it is for repentance. It's for us to see. It's a hardship, because that's how we are as humans, and in the world that we were born into. We think that we're Elohim, okay, that we can be Elohim. And we see the result of it with the magicians here, and we see the result of it today with our magicians, our scientists, and doctors, and everybody else that do these signs and wonders. So for us to kind of internalize this a little bit clearer, we're called out of it, and we're seeing, you know, the results and the speaking forth of come out all the way back here in the beginning of the formation of the upright of El, Yasharel, this group of people that will then be given the name of YAHUAH, which is the way of YAHUAH, which is what we have complete now. So we can internalize that a little clearer, that this is really what we need to be doing. This should be our main focus in our lives. Nothing else but that. Because everything else that's not of that is still of the way of the serpent. And that is division to us, and that makes us unstable in all of our ways, because we're trying to walk a crooked path. So 1 foot in the way of Yah, 1 foot in the way of the world is really 2 feet in the way of the world, because light and dark cannot exist. So we should be focusing on all of our waking hours. What do we need to be doing to pull ourselves away from the way of the serpent? How do we get away from that? That's what we're coming out of. Get away from that completely, because our time is always at hand. It means we can die at any time, and then at that point, it's just what are we going to be awaiting then? So I want resurrection with my Mashiach. I want to be with Yahweh Yahusha. That's where I want to be. That's my heart's desire now. Praise Yah. So I take this very seriously. And I have to keep reminding myself, too, to take it very seriously. Even to say those words right there, I take it very seriously. That's a pretty bold statement. And so that I have to continue to remind myself that I believe this is real. This is really going to happen. So I need to take it seriously. Okay, so I hope that the words of the Torah today has blessed you, and we can see the authority that is shown the world then, and we'll be looking towards the time when the authority will be shown again, because very soon after we'll see the coming of our Mashiach, and what a wonderful time that would be if that occurs in our lifetime or not. Yes, it'll be difficult, but it's all for the purpose to preserve life. Okay. All right, so have a wonderful day today, and we'll be back here tomorrow to finish up with Parsha Be'erah. Thank you.